how do you stop Travis Kelce? Maybe you just can't.
Kelce has more touchdowns than games played.
It doesn't matter what type of body you put on him, Travis Kelce wins, especially in critical moments.
To the near side, it is caught! Touchdown! Travis Kelce!
Travis Kelce just out-leaping people, and he hauls it in.
Back of the end zone, caught! 1, 2, 3, 4 touchdown receptions.
Everybody can get the business. You play corners, you can get the business. You play linebacker, you can get the business too.
Kelce sheds a tackler up the right sideline. 10, 5, touchdown! Cross to the left, on the right, Kelce! Kelce, touchdown! The hat trick!
The Chiefs won another thriller last week with a last-minute victory over the Chargers. And with the top record in the AFC still in hand, they'll look to make it 5 wins in a row this afternoon with a matchup against the defending Super Bowl champs. We are 2 hours from kickoff. You've waited all week for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined by voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. This is Field Pass, presented by StorageMart. And Mitch, the Chiefs won a heart thumper last week. Let's keep it rolling here today.
Yeah, the NFL every week is its own reality show, and everything's got a different script, and this one's an entirely different script today, but you can't give it back. I learned, spoiler alert here, my radio open goes all the way back to my initial season when the Rams came in here, had no reason to beat Joe Montana and shut him out 16-0. It's every week, it's every game. You got to be on point.
Yeah, it's any given Sunday.
Yes,
right?
sir, it is. It seriously is.
Now, there are a lot of unknowns surrounding this Rams squad right now, beginning with their quarterback situation. As of this exact moment, we do not know officially who their quarterback is going to be. Now, it's not going to be Matthew Stafford, their normal starter. We know that. He's in concussion protocol. He is out of today's game. We think it'll be second-year player Bryce Perkins. All signs point toward him being the quarterback here today. He got all the reps in practice this week. It's possible it could be John Wolford as well. He's their other backup. Head coach Sean McVay wouldn't say on Friday who it was going to be. Maybe that's some gamesmanship. I don't know. It could be Wolford. He's dealing with a neck injury right now. Was limited early in practice last week. So it's probably going to be Perkins, at least for most of this game, we think. So who is Bryce Perkins? Well, he's appeared in 2 career games, and that was in each of the last 2 weeks in relief of Matthew Stafford. He went 6 of 11 for 61 yards passing and rushed for 43 yards on 8 carries in those games. He's a very athletic player with some serious speed. What stands out to you about Bryce Perkins?
I'm glad the Chiefs faced Malik Willis less than a month ago because this is an RPO-type quarterback. Oh, yeah. Bryce Perkins had an outstanding preseason for the Rams. He caught some folks' attention and made the team as the 3rd quarterback, but this is an RPO speed guy. One of our 65 TPT terrific guy that works so hard is David Kelce, a Virginia Tech Hokie. He knows all about Bryce Perkins because he broke the Hokies' 15-game winning streak in the Commonwealth Cup match for the University of Virginia, and he was spectacular on that day. He can make plays, but he's very similar to a Malik Willis.
Yeah, based on what we saw last week when he came in against the Saints, I'd expect a lot of read option here today,
Yep.
Bootlegs, rollouts, design quarterback runs, things to get him in space because he does have very impressive speed. What he does not want to do is drop back 50 times and throw the football because this Rams offensive line this year has really struggled. They've allowed the 3rd most sacks in the NFL this season with 35, and this is crazy. They've had a different combination of starters along their offensive line in every game this season.
That's an NFL record. Let me just run through this, and this isn't the 12 days of Christmas. 3 starting left tackles, 4 different starting left guards, 3 different starting centers. They may have that today. 4 different right guards. It's an NFL record because it's the 11th combination, as you mentioned. Let me go back to Wolford, too. I expect to see both quarterbacks. Mostly Perkins, but you may see a series of Wolford running out there.
Well, either way, they're behind an offensive line that's really struggled this year, as we mentioned, and those offensive line struggles are really at the root of overall offensive struggles for the Rams this season because even when Matthew Stafford has played, this is the number 29 scoring offense in the NFL. It's very surprising, right? They were so good last year. This season, they're only averaging 16.8 points per game. They're also missing several playmakers right now, the biggest of whom is, of course, wide receiver Cooper Kupp, one of the best receivers in the NFL, if not the best receiver in the NFL. I mean, get this. He's accounted for 28% of their offensive scrimmage yards. Very difficult if you just take that guy out of the offense all of a sudden, and we've seen that lately with him when he's not played. Just a massive, massive loss.
34% of the receptions, 38% of the targets, 67% of their touchdowns. Only 5 guys in the history of the Super Bowl have been wide receivers. I'm sorry, that won the Triple Crown as wide receivers. He was the NFL MVP, Super Bowl MVP last year, but he was the Triple Crown winner, most receiving yards, most touchdowns, and most targets. But the fact that he's out of there just takes a huge chunk out of the Rams playbook.
Yeah, think about that. In 2021, winning the Triple Crown, very difficult to do. He's that good of a player, and he's the key to their entire offense, I think. Whenever they needed a big play in the playoffs last year, he was always the guy. Well, he's not there anymore for this Rams squad as of now. He's one of several major contributors not on the field or playing hurt for this team right now. That includes running back Darrell Henderson, their leading rusher. They released him earlier this week. So Darrell Henderson is no longer on this team, and their top two pass catchers behind Cooper Kupp, those being Tyler Higbee at tight end and Allen Robinson at wide receiver, they're both questionable coming into this game with various injuries. So we'll see when inactives come out in a few minutes if either of those guys can go in this game. They've just had problems all year long on offense and had a lot of injuries that have made those problems even worse. Now the strength of this team is still their defense, right? Still a very impressive defense with some great players led by Aaron Donald, a future Pro Football Hall of Famer.
Yeah, let's go back quickly on the offense. You know who their main target might be today, and this is fun for the Chiefs Kingdom, is Ben Skoranek. He wears number 18. It's Trent Green's nephew. It's Julie Green's sister's boy. Played at Northwestern, then he was a grad transfer at Notre Dame, had a big catch in the Super Bowl. So Trent Green's nephew's out here running around for the Rams. But yes, let's go to the Rams defense. Aaron Donald will walk on this field. The tears streaming down his face, holding the Lombardi Trophy is an endearing image to me. Really the poster person, I think, of NFL defenses for the last his entire career. But there's other guys too. Leonard Floyd out here, Jalen Ramsey. These are impact defenders. Bobby Wagner, who's got a great history, of course, in the National Football League. When you look at them statistically, the Rams hold up defensively. They're not 3-7 because of their defense.
Yeah, it's a proud defense, right?
Yep.
This is a Super Bowl champion defense, and they've played that way for the most part this year. Now, they don't look really impressive in terms of scoring defense. They're 17th. You might look at that and say, hey, they're not very good this year. They're middle of the pack, allowing 22.7 points per game. But if you dig a bit deeper, they are very good in numerous categories. They've allowed the third fewest plays of 20 or more yards in the NFL this season, so no big plays against these guys. They've allowed the third fewest first downs in the NFL, and they are the number 4 red zone defense in the NFL in terms of disallowing touchdowns. So, like you said, the record may not indicate it, but they've been impressive this year defensively.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are third in red zone offense. They're number 1 in first downs. But when you look at them against the run, they have allowed the fewest big runs in the National Football League. I'm sorry, second, allowing only 18. Only San Francisco's better. Keep in mind, I think one of the things the Chiefs would like to do today, not that they're going to run the ball every time, but they were so good last week at running the ball. They want to kind of keep some of that going, and Ronald Jones may be out here getting some of those totes. But the fact that it's really hard to run the ball on the Rams is a challenge today for the Chiefs.
Especially this kind of weather, right? This is running the football kind of weather. It's not that cold. It's low 40s right now, but maybe Isaiah Pacheco gets a heavy load here today. I also think the quick passing game could be key here today, so bear with me. This is me getting weird with the stats, but opponents have recorded a depth of target of just 5.8 yards this season against the Rams. That's the shortest in the NFL. What does that mean? Well, it's a lot of quick, short passes, not a lot of deep passes against this team even attempted. So that's kind of the key against these guys. And over the last 3 weeks, the quarterback facing the Rams had the quickest average time to throw of any quarterback that week. So this has worked for teams all year long against the Rams. And it's kind of an oversimplification, but when you're facing Aaron Donald on one side, the easiest way to not let him wreck the game is getting rid of the football before he even gets there, right?
But what's the biggest untold story of the Kansas City Chiefs offense this year? They've become really good at the short, quick passes, at the intermediate range. And I've mentioned how proud I am of Patrick Mahomes. It's the next part of his career. We know he can throw the wasp and throw it downfield. But when the Chiefs have had to stay in the pocket, throw it quick, get good quick releases, they've been doing it, and doing it as good as anybody in the league. Crossers, little dumps. The 3 tight end approach is effective in that. So if the ball has to come out fast, the Chiefs are way better than they've been, I think, in my opinion, in the Patrick Mahomes era in that very category.
Oh, yeah. The Chiefs have the most yards after the catch in the NFL this season by a wide margin. So could see that here again today against these Rams. And you mentioned Patrick Mahomes. Let's talk about him for a moment, because what a season he is having. We expect great things from him, and this is even better, I think, than anyone could have expected. He leads the NFL in passing yards right now, passing touchdowns, passing first downs, and passes of 25 or more yards. In fact, his 34 passes of 25 or more yards this season are more than second place by 10, and the most he's ever had at this point in the season in his career, including his MVP season in 2018.
And I'm glad you mentioned the yak. He still has 47 passes of 20 yards or more. That's number one in the league to 11 different guys. But here's the big stat of the day for him. If he wins this game, we can mention all these stats, but guys throughout the years in the NFL have compiled stats. Very few have compiled stats, and one at his level. If Patrick Mahomes wins this game today, it's his 59th win in his first 75 starts. That would set an all-time National Football League record. And that takes all these stats and makes you marinate all that, and it turns out to wins.
Think of all the great quarterbacks in NFL history. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, John Elway, Joe Montana, Steve Young. He would have more wins than all of them.
All of them.
Through 75 career
all
starts.
Of them.
All of them. Just amazing. We're so fortunate to have him as our guy here in Chiefs Kingdom. And you mentioned how he's spreading the football all over the place. That's conducive to winning, right? Because all of these big plays, it's not just one or two players. 10 different players on this offense have at least one reception of 25 or more yards this season. And we saw it last week against the Chargers, missing a lot of playmakers. It didn't matter. The Chiefs still found a way.
Yeah, and Fortson added to that list with the 40-yard reception he had against the Chargers. And then you look at the targets, how difficult this team is to defend, because 10 different players on this team have at least 15 targets. And so when you're looking at trying to figure out Patrick Mahomes, that's why I think we're seeing a lot more man-to-man coverage this year and not the two-deep shell. But still, the Chiefs are carving that up. So they'll see a lot of that today because the Rams will throw a lot of interesting defenses at him.
Yeah, I'll take the man-to-man against Patrick Mahomes any day. The guy's having an MVP season, we think. And for more on the incredible season Patrick Mahomes is having, I caught up with Carissa Thompson from Fox Sports earlier this week.
All right, we're joined now by Carissa Thompson from Fox Sports. And Carissa, I want to ask you about this Chiefs offense because once again, an MVP performance from Patrick Mahomes last week against the Chargers, keeps doing this week in and week out. What impressed you most about Patrick Mahomes and the offense last week, particularly late when they won it?
Well, I don't know if I'm very old, but I used to have these T-shirts called No Fear T-shirts, and they would be situational T-shirts. You know, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, bases loaded. Patrick Mahomes is a No Fear T-shirt. It's fourth quarter, under 2 minutes left to play. Said star receivers out, injured, next man up, and of course, then hits his go-to, Travis Kelce, and he's magical Mahomes again. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me whenever the ball's in his hand. It's reminiscent of growing up watching Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes now has done it for the 6 seasons that he's been in this league, but it feels like a lot longer than that because he just continues to impress, and anytime the ball's in his hand late in the game, you guys have a chance to win.
And the other part of this, how much more dangerous is this offense when even though Juju Smith-Schuster isn't out there, McCole Hardman isn't out there, Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't out there, Kadarius Toney, I can go on and on. He's missing all these weapons, but yet guys like Sky Moore and Justin Watson, Jody Fortson, they can come in and still make plays for this offense.
It's a dream scenario, right? I mean, and he'll say it too, going through his reads, and the only time he, just decides to deviate or audible from his progression is if, Kelce's manned up. But to have just a plethora, a cornucopia of if you will, of different receivers out there or in different offensive playmakers, and they use multiple tight ends and those different packages. It's, I would imagine, a quarterback's dream that you can depend on anyone at any time. So many different headlines for us, and media types in the offseason outside of this building. What are they going to do without Tyreek? Respectfully to Tyreek, they're doing just fine without Tyreek. So it is a very awesome thing to watch in the offensive, efforts from top to bottom of this roster, and guys that are very young. And when Patrick Mahomes says he's the old man in the locker room, you know that I'm very old if that's the case. If he's considered 27 and old, then I'm dead, basically.
Yeah, well, he's doing a great job. I don't think you're dead.
I feel like it.
I think Patrick Mahomes has grown up very quickly in this offense, but he's leading the #1 scoring offense in the NFL. He leads the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Hopefully, he'll keep it going here today against the Rams. Carissa, awesome stuff.
Thank you.
All right, great stuff there from Carissa Thompson. She was awesome. Some full disclosure here. We had gotten back from L.A. at 5:30 in the morning, then back in the office at 8, and we were trying to figure out when we could get an interview for Field Pass, and she was available on Monday. It's let's do it. I had researched the Rams for 15 minutes before that segment, but she was awesome, so that was good.
She's great. But yeah, those Sunday nighters on the road, particularly on those West Coast games.
Yes.
Whew. So anyway, we're ready to go today, man.
Yeah, we are dedicated. All right, so we're waiting on the inactives here. We have not gotten them yet. We should get them any second here. We do know a few things before we even get the inactives, though. We know Kadarius Toney is not going to play in this game for the Chiefs. The guys that we're watching are offensive guard Joe Thuney. He is questionable with an ankle injury. Safety Juan Thornhill with a calf injury. He's also questionable. And corner Chris Lamons in concussion protocol. He is questionable. Some good news. We know Juju Smith-Schuster is back. He was a full participant in practice all week. Great having Juju back after that scary hit a few weeks ago.
Yeah, let's talk about Joe Thuney first. He was limited throughout the way. He did not practice until Friday. I expect him to play, but even then they'll have Allegretti ready to go in. Allegretti plays when they go extra big, but even then he could get maybe a series or two at guard. Without Toney, it puts some extra pressure again on guys like Justin Watson and Sky Moore, and they stepped up big last week, as we know, and hopefully do that again. But having Juju Smith-Schuster back is important, obviously, but it's really important for Kelsey because Andy Reid has laid it out for us over the past 6 weeks what a Juju's his presence does for Kelsey and getting all of the attention. You saw what happened last week in the Charger game without Juju, is they're just magnetized to Travis Kelsey. But Juju on the opposite side, many times in the formation, changes a lot of that.
Now, we did just get the inactives in. A bit of a surprise here. It looks like Joe Thuney is inactive in this game.
Oh, that is a surprise.
So Joe Thuney is inactive in this game with that ankle
first
injury.
Miss, I believe, in NFL history. His NFL career, I think.
Yeah, he's been an Iron Man, but not going to go here in this one.
That is a surprise.
Juan Thornhill is inactive here in this game. I don't see 29 on here, so I think Chris Lamons is active in this game. A big-time special teams player on this squad. So Chris Lamons is active, it looks like. Juan Thornhill and Joe Thuney are not. Juju Smith-Schuster, as I mentioned, he's good to go here in this game, which is great news. Looking at the Rams, so an extensive injury report for them, as we've been talking about this entire show. That's been the story for them all year long. We knew Matthew Stafford was not going to play here in this game in concussion protocol. Center Brian Allen, he's not going to play in this game, missing a second straight game. He's their starting center, only appeared in 4 games, though, this season. So no Brian Allen. Defensive tackle Ashawn Robinson tore his meniscus last week, so he is obviously not going to play in this game, and he'll be out for the rest of the regular season. Linebacker Traven Howard with a hip injury, he is out. And then here's the guys we are waiting to see. Number 89, Tyler Higbee is active. So Tyler Higbee is active in this game. Allen Robinson is not active. So Allen Robinson out of this game for the Rams. Tyler Higbee, though, is ready to go. He has a knee injury. He was questionable coming in, but he's going to give it a go here today. And then offensive linemen, we were looking at a few of these guys. Number 64, don't see him. Looks like Matt Skura with a knee injury. He was questionable coming in. He is active. He played every snap at left guard last week.
He's the number 2 center behind
Brian Allen.
And if he can't go, it goes to number 3. So that's big. They got some guys they're trying to get back today. He's trying. We say ready to go. We'll see.
But Ty Nsekhe, their left tackle right now, he is out of this game. He started the last 2 weeks at left tackle for them. He was signed in mid-October. Kind of gives you perspective on what they're dealing with here. But that's a lot of information. We'll try to summarize. Allen Robinson out. Offensive tackle Ty Nsekhe, their left tackle, he is out. Tyler Higbee in. And their center or left guard or wherever they're going to play him here today, Matt Skura, he is in. But this team is dealing with just a ton of injuries right now, and the entire left side of their offensive line is banged up right now as well.
13 guys on injured reserve, and you mentioned all the injured guys. No team in the league has been decimated by injuries. But let's go back to the Chiefs. Joe Thuney, I thought would at least be on a pitch count would play. Not so. That puts a lot of pressure on Nick Allegretti, right? And we're talking about Aaron Donald, who moves around on that defensive line. So a big day for Allegretti. Also a big day for Brian Cook with Juan Thornhill out. Brian Cook, who's been the luxury third safety, now has to be the guy on every scrimmage down for the Chiefs. So those guys have got to come up big today for Kansas City.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for our guys here today. Listen, the Rams, this is not the season they expected when the year began. That's obvious. This is not the record they wanted this season, but they are a proud group. They are the reigning Super Bowl champions, and they will be a challenge here today.
In fact, Matt, I'll say this. If they lose, it'll be the worst start to a year after a Super Bowl championship in a non-strike year in NFL history. You mentioned their pride. It's a great point. They don't want that.
Yeah.
If they lose this today, they are making history just the opposite of what they did in February.
And the good news is I think the Chiefs realize that, right? The Chiefs are approaching this game knowing that this will be a challenge here today. You got to beat the champs to be the champs, right? And it's only week 12 here, but this will be another step for the Chiefs on their way to their ultimate goal later this year, which is hopefully the Super Bowl. For Mitch Holthus, I'm Matt McMullen. We'll close our show with that, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Let's go get a victory.